The Message Box desktop application. In this video, we'll explain how to use our desktop application. This is how the Message Box dashboard looks like when you log into your domain. Let's start by focusing our attention to the top part of the dashboard. Open Requests indicates the total number of pending requests. Internal Notifications indicates the total number of unread messages of the user. Unassigned Requests indicates the total number of requests which have been created but not been assigned. Unaccepted Requests indicates the total number of requests which have been assigned but not been accepted. Escalations indicates the total number of requests which are now overdue. The next part of the dashboard is the Contacts section. This lists all the users in your hotel. The online-offline indicator will be green if online and gray if offline. Clicking on the location marker shows the last known location of a support staff or a runner. The different tabs on the dashboard. The first tab is the Open tab, which lists all the pending requests in the application. This matches with the total number of open requests shown at the top of the dashboard. The second tab is the Scheduled tab, which lists all the scheduled requests in the application. You can also see all of your scheduled requests in a calendar view. The third tab is the Escalated Request tab. This lists all the requests which are overdue and matches with the total number of escalations shown at the top of the dashboard. The fourth tab is the Notifications tab. This lists all the users' unread messages of the following types: one-to-one chats, group chats, request-based chats, and broadcast messages. This matches with the total number of notifications shown at the top of the dashboard. Click on Clear All to clear all your notifications. The fifth tab is the Closed Requests tab. This lists all the requests which have been closed today. The last one, and one of the most important elements of the dashboard, is the Request window. Let me first explain how to create a request through the Request window. It is important to first understand the source of the request. If the hotel guest is asking for the request or wants to create a complaint, then the guest checkbox should be ticketed. This is the default selection. However, if the source of the request is from an internal staff, then the internal checkbox should be clicked. An example of an internal request would be if a housekeeping attendant finds the tap leaking in the bathroom and creates a request. A request can now be created with three basic inputs: the room number or the service area of the request being created. The second thing that the user has to input is the category of the request. If it is a guest request, the user has to choose a guest category. If it's a guest complaint, the user has to choose a complaint category. And if it's an internal request, the user has to choose an internal category. Based on the category, the last thing the user has to choose is the type of service or complaint. Each complaint and request type is assigned a time in the application by which the job needs to be completed. Optionally, the user can change the priority or enter additional details relating to the request. Click on Save and the request is created. Using the same request window, you can also create a scheduled request. The user has to follow the same steps of request creation, with one more additional input of the future time and date when the request will fall due. Now that we've created a request, let's try to assign the request. Once you create a request, the status for the request is open. When you click Assign, the list will show only staff that are linked to that category. For example, only housekeeping runners will be listed for housekeeping jobs. Choose the runner or support staff to whom it has been assigned and click on Assign. The request now moves to assigned status. You can reroute the request to a different runner by clicking on the reroute and following the same steps. Now that you've assigned the request, The next thing to do is for the assigned user to accept the request from the MessageBox mobile application. But what if the assigned user does not have a smartphone with the MessageBox app with which to accept the request? In such cases, you can call the assigned user, inform the user about the job, and click on Accept. The system will show the job has been accepted by you on behalf of the assigned user. Let's try to close this request now. The request moves to accepted status once the user accepts the job. Once the job is completed, the user can complete the job from the MessageBox mobile app. Again, what if the assigned user does not have a smartphone with the MessageBox app with which to complete the request? In such cases, the assigned user will call and inform you that the job has been completed. You can click on Complete and the system will show you that the job has been completed by you on behalf of the assigned user. The status of the request is now completed. The user can now click on Close and close the request. The status of the request is now closed. MessageBox brings in team-level collaboration by allowing the assigned user, supervisors, and the guest center staff to communicate on each request using the Request Chat window. This allows everyone to know on a real-time basis what's happening on that request. You can update the details of any request by clicking on Update on any request which is on Open or Accepted status. There are two ways you can reset any request. The first method is to reset the time of the request. For example, if you want to extend the time of the request due to some genuine reason, you can input the time to extend in minutes along with the reasons for the extension. The second method is by parking a request. Click on Reset. Input the future time and date to which the request needs to be parked and provide a reason for parking. This request will move to the Scheduled Request tab along with all the requests due in the future. Now there's a small difference between closing a complaint and closing a request. If it's a complaint, the user needs to input 3 additional details. First, service recovery. An example would be a complimentary breakfast given to the guest. Second, cost of the recovery. An example would be the cost of the complimentary breakfast, which is $100. Third, resolution details. An example would be to write up how the case was resolved with the guest. Once these details are input, you'll receive the duty manager's log every day in PDF format, which shows all the pending complaints as well as the complaints closed yesterday. And that's a quick wrap-up of the MessageBox desktop application.